Yep.
So we're going to start off today by asking Coach V like where is he from, how many years he coached, and what are one or two highlights of your career.
Oh, um, originally from Topeka, Kansas area. I've been coaching since 2005, 2004, 2005. So about 20, 21 years, 22 years, give or take. Highlight of my career, I guess, statistically speaking, was 2010. My men and women won the national championship in cross country. They ran the table, and I was the youngest coach in the history of NJCAA to do that. So it was conference, region, national cross, and the half marathon championships all in one season.
It's pretty good.
I know. Fifth year of my coaching career, hit the pinnacle. It's kind of like, oh, great. Now what?
Like where I go from here.
Yeah,
Like,
there's
yeah.
nowhere to go but down. But yeah, that was it. So that was kind of it. Didn't really understand at the time, until the older you get, and you're like, oh wow, that was kind of impossible to do.
Yeah, especially at an early age. So now it's like, what is the
I was
motivation?
naive. I was
Yeah.
naive. I was like, oh man, I'm just plug and play, plug and play. And
Mm.
early on in my career, I thought that was it. But then the older you get, it's almost like more experience made it harder because then I was like, okay, if I tweak this, tweak that, and then the tweak didn't work. So then it was like, oh, yeah, really
Mm.
created I don't know, cast a big shadow, I guess.
That's good accomplishment. So the next question, we're going to be talking about sportsmanship and gamesmanship issues in your sport, which is track and cross country. So the first question we're going to ask is sportsmanship an important part of your coaching philosophy and why?
Sportsmanship, yeah, I think you have to understand how to lose in order to be successful to win. If you're always winning and you don't understand what happens when you do fail, you might react differently to failure. You might maybe blame someone else or lash out. So understanding the ebb and flow of winning and losing, and understanding you got to respect the game. And my sport's different because it's individual, so it's almost like you versus yourself at times. Um, but you still have teammates. You still have to respect the sportsmanship of it all, and not be disrespectful out there. And understand that you're only as good or as bad as your last race. Like that's kind of how it is, and you have to take that with an effect. So sportsmanship wise, it's kind of you want to be good for your teammates and not blame them, because at the end of the day, it's individual performances that make the team. But that one's a kind of a hard one at times because you can win with
The individual.
individual, but just understanding the ebb and flow of it all, and being good. I guess to sum it up, knowing how to lose while being able to look at what you need to do to win. Not be okay with losing, but understand like I lost this way, and this is how I become better.
Yeah, I like that. The next one is what one event regards good sportsmanship stuck out the most from your experiences?
What one event? Oh man, nothing. I don't know. Nothing. I, me personally, or about my teams, or what? I guess for me, sportsmanship. So I know we're talking about gamesmanship, but the gamesmanship, I feel like they're, everything, all love, all is fair between the lines of the track and lines of the cross country meet. That's the gamesmanship at all. And I know we kind of talked a little bit off camera about this, but the sportsmanship side of that. So if I've managed to affect a team, either my team or another team, I've affected a team. I've caused an athlete to go above and beyond from another team, and they stepped up and they ran faster because of some of my gamesmanship. I first want to go up there and like, hey, congrats. Or I guess whenever I've lost to a coach as a team, like as soon as the race is over with, I'll congratulate the team. Like, you know what, you won, you got this. Like I understand that we're all here to do a specific task, but when it's over with, like don't take it personal. Just go and congratulate the team for winning. They beat you. Heads
Yeah.
up. No matter how how you think they beat you, whether you agree with it or not, they still beat you, and just respect the process of it all.
I agree. Next question up. Have you had an issue with a player where they have been what is it, reprimanded regarding unsportsmanlike conduct either during the practice
Yeah,
or
reprimanded.
yeah.
Um, I've never had anybody. I'm trying to think if I ever reprimanded somebody. Um, I've had somebody. No, I mean I haven't had any instances where bad sportsmanship. I had to reprimand him. Philip Redrick is when he when I we know him obviously. Whenever I coached him in 2007, I had to get onto him for just some of the gamesmanship he had that would rub others the wrong way. But I never had to reprimand. It was close though because it almost caused a stir. But reprimanded, no. Our sport's so objective. Like if you're getting beat, like the last thing you're gonna do is lash out because
Yeah.
they're just better than you. Like you're not gonna foul them during the race because they beat you. I've never seen that. That's kind of where our sport. Like I've never had to reprimand anybody because of bad sportsmanship. I've had to tell someone to walk off because they were mad and angry and air it out. So I guess I never had to reprimand him, but I got to it before it got to that point. I guess I never just ignored the problem to hope it would just work itself out. A lot of times I would address it before it bottled itself up and then lashed out.
Yeah, especially, you want to be hyped individually for the race. So I guess like going in is like, hey, be hyped, but if you lose, take your losing just like you was hyped. So I'd go with that one.
You can't be the hype or be all up and you win without understanding. You got to be humble. You got to have humility in the nose. Like, hey man, you're only as good or as bad as your last race. So you might have had success, but when it comes to being defeated, you got to take that too. You got to swallow that. You can't have it both ways. You can't have one way or the other. You got to take it all in, both of it. So, I've never reprimanded anybody, but that's also maybe because
how the sport is.
How the sport is.
Yeah.
And you've probably been beaten enough before you got to that part. Hopefully they've lost enough to where they've never had bad sportsmanship. But if someone throws a baton and gets us DQ'd, I guess that would be I've never had that happen. Maybe because the end of the DMR or 4x you're too tired to even throw the
Pick
baton.
it up. You're laying on the ground. So
Yeah,
the baton is on the ground at that rate.
Only thing I could see is a 4x1 chucking the baton, but
that rarely even happened either.
Yeah.
So the next one is: have you dealt with an unsportsmanlike issue on your team, conflict or penalty?
No, I haven't. I've had bad attitudes, but it wasn't I've had some. Once again, like as a coach, water runs downhill, so I've always tried to. I'm up here, you're down here. Water runs downhill, so if I maybe other sports on campus might think we're bad sportsmanship during some of the heyday of some success, but I don't know if I've never had an issue where it was directly like that. It typically, once again, like you are used to, it works itself out because it's so objective.
Yeah.
You can be upset and angry and mad. Like there's some athletes would handle different workouts and different things after practice or after a race. And I kind of had an idea when to approach them and when not to approach them and let them just be crybabies about the race until I come talk to them or until they come talk to me about it when they're done feeling sorry for themselves. And we kind of I've always had you have a 24-hour rule of, 24 hours to feel sorry for yourself after that, or not just feel sorry for yourself. You have 24 hours to enjoy it and feel sorry for yourself. Either way, 24 hours, you need to move on because you're only as good or as bad as your last race. Just like you're only as good or as bad as your last practice. So that was wild. I guess maybe that kind of prevented a lot of that from coming up, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I had an athlete like that. When she lose, I always give her like 10 to 15 minutes, and
Yeah.
once she's calm, she'll come back around and like she's fine. But when she lose, she was just like so hard on herself, and she didn't like losing. So I mean, I truly agree. The next one is extra subject if they are familiar with the term gamesmanship, and if not, give them an example.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it. I utilize that all the time. I all is fair. Love and war, all is fair between the lines. So my gamesmanship would be if your team, if your runner's body language exhibited any type of stress or fatigue, and they were battling with mine, I would try to interject passive aggressive comments like, "Hey, they're breaking down. They're about to die. Break them. They don't want, or they can't run with you. Whatever came to my mind at the time, they can't run with you. Break them up here, or turn their corner and 10 step, on them, or basically it's a fartlek. They'll surge in the middle of the race. I'll do stuff like that. Now, I've had times where I've done that and their athlete actually irritated them and they stepped up and end up either get close to beating my athlete or they beat my athlete. And immediately after the race, I'll go up to that kid and dap him up and congratulate and tell him he's tough. Cameron Reith, Callie's coach, ran at Garden City. And in 2008, he was up against Metler and Johnny Purvis. And I couldn't mentally break Cameron for the life of me. Every time I saw Cameron, I was on him, on him. And all it did was piss him off and keep him engaged. And it took maybe the last 120, 150 meters for him to finally break. And by that time, I was like, man, and the first thing I went to him was like, you're tough as hell. I gave him his flowers. I mean, and we talk about it a lot too, but at the same token, I will actually try to break my athletes in practice. Now, I'm not malicious with it. Like, I'm not going at them personally, but I will try to mentally break them during a hard workout. And I also know when not to go too far because I don't want to break the athlete in the practice. But if I can mentally fatigue them and get them to question things and then overcome what they're questioning, now if a coach tries that in the race,
It don't hurt
it don't hurt them. And that was my thought process. All right, someone's going to do this to you. If I'm doing this to other teams, someone's doing this to you guys. So I need to get out ahead of this and try to condition my kids to just push through that. And they always were. They were always tough. Like during my heyday, like I rarely ever had an athlete that would just break from somebody else talking to them or not be able to push through. And I was always like, we race how we trained, and we trained hard physically and mentally. And that was something, hindsight looking back on, I never like, I gamesmanship from day one. But I came from a ball sport background. In ball sport, you just assume that someone's talking trash to you. And
Right.
that was the weird part about it was like, I'm come from a ball sport mindset into an individual objective sport. Well, no one usually talks to each other or tries to talk someone down. Now, obviously, like sprinters and things like that, for the distance races, it's weirder because you're not used to having that in the distance races in cross country. It's a lot of time to hear me talk, and I would run all over the course. So you might see me 5 or 6 times. I might not get you 1 through 4, but 5 through 6, I might have broke you. And it was nothing personal, and I never made it malicious. Never did. And a lot of times it would be passive aggressive where I'm hyping my guy up by telling him stuff that their athlete was going through. And there's times where the athlete that I would saying it to would respond back to me and sometimes flip me off, or even I laughed at it just because it was funny. There's a kid from Western State that I had told one of my athletes, hey, break him. He's done. He's dead. He turned to me, flipped me off. I laughed at it. It just made me laugh. I was like, that's fair.
You got up under his skin. That's what you realized.
But he turned around and flipped me off and then ran past. It was Ricardo and ran past. And I think he beat Ricardo, or maybe Ricardo stepped up and outran him. It was one of those things where I laughed at it. It was nothing personal. And he didn't see me after the race. I didn't see him after the race. It was just kind of just in the moment, made me laugh.
If anything, you probably made him step up.
Yeah.
Because you said that.
And sometimes when that happens, like, ooh, I'll leave that guy alone next time. And that was what I would do. But if it came to where I'd seen him, I'd let the guy know that, hey, man, you're tough. Like, I couldn't break you. And they're like, I know, or they're like, you motivated me. Well, then that's the last time I talked to that kid, because I wasn't trying to motivate him. But,
you were trying to get.
But I also knew science-wise, like, let's say if I say something to you, it angers you, you pick up the pace and redline. Now I just redlined you. Well, science says when you redline, you only have a limited amount of time before you can hold on to that. And if it's cross country race or distance race, I just redlined you. Now you're going to literally slow down. So I caused you
To decelerate.
to decelerate,
Really. Yeah.
and my guy runs by you.
See.
Don't let it happen. Hey, it's gamesmanship, man.
See?
It's nothing. It's nothing personal. Nothing personal. And it's. I was never malicious, so I wasn't ever a bad sport about it. But if you beat me, I congratulate you. And there's coaches who knew I would do that, and they'd get mad, and they never approached me, which we don't go to that part of the sportsmanship. But it is what it is, man. I came from a ball sport background. Like no one's being nice out on the basketball and football or baseball.
Nah.
Everything's either
Trying to get in your head
Yeah.
to get you off your game.
Why is our sport different? It's even more mentally tough.
Especially you got to run around, and I see you a lot, and I see you getting tired.
Yeah.
So
I'm not tired. You got to deal with me saying something to you. So
So the next one is kind of like, so do you utilize gamesmanship as part of your coaching strategy?
yeah, as I said, yeah. Now, like it says gender, like, okay, so I do get that. I'll tell you, women are tougher than men with it. I've almost broke more men than I had women. It's the weirdest thing. I think women deal with adversity better. Like mentally, when it comes between the lines, they can frown their eyebrow and just like
You can tell, yeah.
you can't. It's hard to break them. You'll piss them off before you break them. Now, in practice, I have to be careful because if they're going through something emotionally, sometimes they can't separate emotion from outside of track or practice. They'll bring it all together.
I agree.
And
I definitely agree.
men can. There's nothing more dangerous than a guy that had his heart break. You're going one or two ways. You are either going to be the greatest trainer and hardcore, or you're just going to just fall flat. But a lot of times with the guys, it would be the opposite. They would turn into just a savage and beast in training, which I always chuckle. I was like, all right. Women, on the other hand,
They always have that emotion going with them.
it's hard for them to separate the emotion from practice. Guys could do that a lot better. But that's the weirdest part about that. With the women, though, man, if they lock in, you're not going to break them.
I truly agree,
they're
especially
tough as hell. Tough.
coaching females.
Tough.
I think coaching females, to me, like they don't overthink. They just go in and do
Yeah.
it. And like you said, you might have a moment leading up to the race where they was like upset about outside something, but it's like when the race starts, they're going to focus on it. Guys, on the other hand, they don't focus on the emotional stuff. It's just they overthink things.
Guys, notice will use, and I did this myself whenever my heart was broke or I had an issue, I would use that as external motivation. So I had in my head, all right, I'm going to push myself so hard that I'm going to prove to whoever dumped me that I'm better, yada, yada, yada. But I would create it. I would create an external motivator in my head, and it would just drive me. I wouldn't let it affect me emotionally by training. Now, maybe behind the scenes, I'd be emotional and just upset and heartbroken because you just swallow it in as a guy and you try to just hide that emotion.
You just take it out with the sport.
But I took it out with the sport. I harnessed it and leashed it out with the sport. Whereas the female, it seems like they can't always do that. You get all or none. You get it with you. But when it comes to when the gun goes off, that was when the women, so when I talked about my gamesmanship, looking back on, honestly, I don't think I've ever tried breaking other girls. Now I would motivate our girls with gamesmanship and I would say passive aggressive stuff, but it would motivate our girls. And it was always to our girls. Whereas on the guys side with my gamesmanship, I would always try to break the other team's guys mentally. Cause it would always go one or two different ways, but the women I never tried because of hell have no fear like a scorned woman. If I piss a woman off in the middle of the race,
it can either go one way. She can either do good,
and most likely she'd always do good because
Yeah.
it would just piss her off. So she had the emotion that she would go at
the other person.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm not messing with that. That's kind of what I see with the gender differences and everything else.
What you were just saying, so it kind of ties into the next one. Do you consider gamesmanship taking advantage of the rules or cheating?
No, man, it's all love and fair. Like there's no, all right, okay, maybe there's, all right, there. I guess there's a code of conduct, Article 20. There's a rule that says taunting and stuff like that. But I'm not malicious. So where I justified it was I'm not malicious with what I'm saying. So I'm not researching you and seeing that somebody passed away or died or anything like that. I'm not malicious with it. So I wasn't intending. And if I knew a kid had a breakup or had something, I'm not malicious with that. Like I wouldn't use that against the person. A
Right.
lot of the trash talk on the other teams would be, or a lot of the gamesmanship, not trash talk, gamesmanship. I like that term. Would be in the moment what I see in front of me. It
Right.
wouldn't be. I wouldn't come in with something because I was like, that's malicious. Now you're attacking the person. Like I'm trying to attack the moment itself. Like what I see in front of me. If I can break you, I want to. Now we might have beaten you 5 times. I might bring that up. Like, hey, he can't mess with you. Bury him. They can't run with you. I would say stuff like that. Yeah, it'd be. I'd say stuff like that all the time to teams that thought they could beat us. I would like, they ain't gonna touch you guys. You already know what's gonna happen. I'd say stuff like that, but that's gamesmanship. But that was not malicious. That wasn't a. I wasn't attacking the actual person. So
Right.
maybe that was my justification for the strategy and rules is as long as I wasn't malicious because I wouldn't want somebody like
To find dirt
yeah
on me and bring it up.
yeah like I would never wanted to go that route.
Yeah, I agree. So the next one is: do you utilize a positive strategy regarding diversity on your team, like religion, gender, race, or economics?
Yeah, I mean, I always
And just name one of the strategies.
um I want you to be the person that you are and feel comfortable with that, whether you're part of the LGBT or not T, but LGB, if you're white, black, Hispanic, whether you're rich, poor, like I wanted you to be able to feel comfortable with whoever you are. You're allowed to be yourself. However, you have to respect somebody else's opinion, even though you don't agree with it, but you have to allow them to be themselves. As long as, and I never really had that issue. I never had the issue coming up. And I've had opposite ends of the spectrum politically, but at the end of the day, I always try to put it in perspective. You're not going to change what's going to happen. Like it's already going to happen, whether you get upset or not. Don't let what you can't control upset you and control how you function. Like don't let that get to you. Um, in terms of diversity, I want someone to be themselves. Like I've had all sorts of I've had women issues, men issues. I've had men women issues. I've had it all. Um, I always felt like I'm not trying to bring my personal life into practice. Don't bring, try not to bring yours into as well. But I always try to allow their I don't like, I hate the word safe space because me, I like my safe space is I like to laugh at like laugh not maliciously but laugh at our faults. Like if I look a certain way and I get that you give me you basically crack jokes on me, like I know it's coming from a good place, not coming from a malicious, a bad place.
True.
Like I want it to be that relaxed environment that we can make fun of each other, but someone outside of our circle makes fun of us. Oh no, that's malicious. But if we're making fun of each other, it's like a family. A family is gonna you're gonna accept the family that you have, regardless of the issues that you might disagree with, and you're gonna fight for that family. Anyone outside of it tries to interject. It's now you're fighting us, all of us. I always
Yeah.
wanted that mindset, that mentality.
I agree, especially, I mean, that's kind of how the team is. On the next one, have you had to deal with diversity issues with your team members, such as players not accepting teammates due to gender?
No, I never had. And do they get a? I know that's always a hot topic this day and age, but I never can recall an issue where that happened. And like, but all like our sport, like there's one year where I might have been the minority white coach, and I had mostly Hispanic and black
Yeah.
kids. And the whites might have been the minority. There's other times where the whites were, the Hispanic and blacks were the minority. Like our sport was so intertwined already, and it's multicultural. It was already kind of filtered out. Now I know there were a lot of upset kids when certain current events were going on, and we kind of talked about this a long time ago. Is if you're wanting to protest explain to me why you want to protest, or why do you feel a certain way? Like explain it to me. Like get me to understand where you're coming from. And if you articulate it well, and if you articulate it and I see you, all right, go ahead. You know, I have no problem with that. But if you're only doing it because it's a trend, or if it's going to make you look a certain way, you're doing it just
For the wrong reasons.
for the wrong reasons. So no, I don't agree with that. Like, don't need to do that. But we're already such a diverse sport, anyways. It never. I guess maybe I was raised not to see color. I get
Exactly.
it; it's out there, but I was always raised not to see color, just see the person.
I agree. And the last one is, do you address diversity acceptance in your preseason, and do you feel it's necessary elements in your coaching responsibility?
Yeah, like you need to understand who you're bringing in, and understand that sometimes the environment, like if you bring someone from an international, the food here is awful, and you have to understand that. And I've always thought, like, all right, you know, this is when I was coaching South Africa or East Africans. I've had them on my team. You're coming all the way over from another country. I'm partially responsible for taking care of you, like whether I want to admit to it or not. Like I'm bringing another teenager over from another country. How would I feel if that was my son or my daughter going to another country? I would hope that that coach would take the same initiative.
True.
But it's also the thing for out of staters. Like I would know that I'd have certain out of staters being out of state. If you're 7, 8, 9, 10, hours away, that's just as bad. I mean, that's just as much as being international, not being able to go home, And
Yeah.
so we like during holidays, I would make sure that we had Thanksgiving dinners, or if they were here, I'd make sure that I was taking care of some of those needs. And it's just part of the responsibility. If you're going to bring them over from far, far away, you got to have some type of infrastructure that would, you know, uh, and insulate them, I should say, insulate them to allow them to not feel a certain way.
All right. Well, that was the last question. I appreciate you
Yep.
doing this with me, and thank you.